We are back with our regular edition of Fearless Flight Live, and where we talk about people who are, or talk to people who have a fear of flying, people who may know somebody who's got a fear of flying, and others who just like to talk about airplanes and listen to Eric and I tell stories and lie. I mean, tell sagas. So anyway, I'm here with Diane.
And I don't.
Yeah. And she never lies. And Eric, of course. And we have a special guest tonight, Megan Deere, our dear friend. I guess you probably never heard that before, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, well, just a couple of words here. Let me share my screen. We'll put some slides up there, and hopefully you'll see. Okay, and if I hit the play button.
Wow.
Okay, so here we are live in beautiful downtown Tempe, and we say a couple of words. We're up to 690 some members of our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather. And tonight, as a matter of fact, we have a question that I stole off of there from Tracy Solis. And so thanks, Tracy, for that. And we have a couple other questions there. Please leave a comment on there or ask a question if you have one. We'll try to field those. Diane's been doing a good job monitoring our Facebook page there. And I'll mention just brief. We have a special guest, as I mentioned. We I'll just mention briefly the 201-301 class in Phoenix, which is ongoing. We're taking a week hiatus here because of Thanksgiving, and then an update on the Clear for Takeoff 101 in-person class and the online class you'll understand there. Just to remind you, the class is, we've had 2 out of the 4 sessions, and it's not too late to join. If you like, I have a link coming up down the road here, and we do have replays there, so you can go back and get that. So let's just go right into the program here with Megan. Let me get my slides back up here. So Megan, while I'm searching for the slides there, how about you give us a little update, like who you are, where you're at, and what do you do for a living?
Megan Deere. I am just outside of Phoenix in Santan Valley, little town, East Valley.
You know what? We are getting feedback that makes. Yeah.
Let me see. Hold on. Is that a little bit better?
I think that's better.
Is that better?
It's better. It seems to be better in the moment.
Okay. And as I'm out in Santan Valley, out in the East Valley, out here, okay. And I manage 2 behavioral medical group homes in the Phoenix area.
Okay.
I've been doing that for about 4 years now. My absolute passion. So working with adults with special needs.
Oh, cool. And my first question is, I was looking for my. Oh, I hate this. I lost my slides. They're here somewhere hiding on me, but I cannot find them. Oh, come on, please. 1 second. There's that. Now, escape. There we go. Okay. And I'll get back to where I can see you guys. All right, we're back. Okay, so I ask people, one of the questions I ask people is the why. So obviously, you know, when you wouldn't be hanging around with us if you didn't want to get over your fear of flying, but the why about that. So what's the why for you? What caused you to find the motivation right now to tackle your fear of flying?
I want to support, and I feel like my fear of flying is stopping me from doing that. The difference with me is I have flown all my life, ever since I've been a little girl. I distinctly remember getting on a plane and being fearful every single time. And I think it's gotten worse for me as an adult. So I don't know if it's just, so like a psychological thing. I don't like being up in the plane. When I get up there and we start, I think it comes down to control for me. I don't like not having any control of the situation. And when I start feeling turbulence, the first thought in my mind is,
your microphone is coming in and going out. I'm not sure exactly what's doing that.
I could try to go log back on my phone, maybe see if that will help.
You could try that. There's a number there that you can call in on your phone, and then it comes through the computer audio if you'd like. You want to try that?
Try that.
This is just like aviation. We're never straight and level. It's always an infinite number of corrections.
Yeah.
Okay. You say you found the number, or you're having trouble finding?
I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Okay, great. What I'll do is I will just go through here, and I'll talk about these other few slides that I wanted to talk about. And of course, I can't do that yet because I've got to share the screen first.
There you go.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we do have the class coming up, and if you go to this link here, we'll put that in the notes afterwards. It'll take you over to this page where you can fill out the questionnaire, and that lets me know that you have interest, and we will, and then I'll send you the information, and you can join and catch up over the break here. What I wanted to mention about the class, because we have a class in Phoenix here, I am going to do kind of a special version of the 101 in-person class, which is free for anybody who can attend it that's in the Phoenix area here. And that'll be on Saturday, December 4th from 7 to 9 o'clock. And then the following morning for anybody who's not in the Phoenix area, or if you're in the Phoenix area and you want to join, you can do that as well. Just by it's an online webinar that I do every month there. So it sounds like maybe we are back there.
How's that? Is that a little bit better?
Oh, yeah.
1000% better.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Sorry, my video might look a little bit different because I had to go on my phone.
It's okay. That's much better. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're back talking about, when I ask you, what's the how how'd you become afraid to fly? And you said, like many people, I think that you flew okay, and then all of a sudden you developed
and I wouldn't necessarily describe it as okay. I was always fearful, but not as bad as I was as an adult.
Sure.
Now, my flying had definitely stopped. As a child, it was back and forth, visiting between parents. And then as an adult, it was more, vacations and whatnot. And then I would purposely find myself, maybe getting a bus across country or, just to avoid flying. And I had the opportunity to go to London 3 years ago to visit a friend. And I just felt like, even though I was so scared, and a couple points I did actually almost cancel the flight because I was so fearful, but I didn't, because I felt like, I'm probably never gonna have this opportunity again, so, and it was fine. I took the flight. It was a 10-hour flight. And I did okay, but a friend of mine actually flew to Phoenix to fly to London with me, so I wouldn't have to be by myself.
And we want to let you know that if that ever comes up again and you don't think you can make it, Eric, Diane, and I are totally willing to take your place. That's the kind of sacrifice we're willing to make.
I'm actually going again next year, hopefully.
All right. So
we are.
So we'll take that as something that we can support you in any way you can. What is it that bothers you most about flying?
I think it's the turbulence. I up there and, we start hitting turbulence and, I find myself saying, this is 34,000 feet in the air. This is too high up for this stuff to happen, and then I'll find my legs start jittering. I don't ever get to the point where I have a full-fledged panic attack, but sure. I do, I have to bring the eye mask, but then I'll find myself lifting up my eye mask and looking out the window, seeing if even seeing puffs of clouds make me nervous.
Eric and I are going to talk about that a little bit down the road here. So we'll talk more. Nobody gets tired of talking about turbulence because it's just something that it's big and bold and it just sneaks up on everybody. And what ways does your fear of flying affect you personally, business? How do you find it?
And I do have a flight coming up for business coming up in September as well, where I have to fly, one of my special needs members on a vacation and who he has never flown before. This is the first flight for him. So, I'm trying to have that mindset. Okay, I need to be strong for this person as well, which I know that I can, but it's still that, it's still in that background of me being nervous.
Well, one of the things you can think about is as you learn more things about that, you maybe end up tutoring that person, and that's the best way to learn is teaching others. Right. The old adage, we teach what we most need to learn. So I've had people over the years tell me, that one of the things they did was share their anxiety with the person next to them. And one of my favorites was a client out of she lived in Baltimore but commuted to LA regularly, and she told her seatmate next to her, a perfect stranger, said, "Hey, by the way, I'm a little nervous about flying, so don't call security if you see me getting agitated." And he said, "Oh my God, I am terrified to fly." And so she coached him all the way from LA to Baltimore, and it was one of the most comforting flights she's ever had. Because her mind was busy passing on information, and she could detach from it a little bit. Yeah. What would it, did you have any reservations at this particular time about flying, or what is it that keeps you off of an airplane or makes the airplane miserable for you?
I don't want to crash. That's what.
Okay. So the thought of crashing. Yeah.
Thought of crashing is terrifying to me. I'm not even worried about, you hear every now and then about terrorist attacks. That, of course that's always in my mind, but the thought of crashing is terrifying.
Sure. Yeah.
For a minute, I thought she said, "I don't want to pack," not "I don't want to crash."
I don't want that either.
Thought, man, that's awesome. We got to give her a prize. That's the first time I've heard that. I hate that part.
And can you imagine, what it would be like to not have this anxiety about flying, Megan?
Would love to not have this anxiety. I would probably travel so much more, even going to California. I'll get in a car and drive to California before I'll get on a plane.
Sure. Can you see yourself moving forward and getting to the point where it doesn't dominate your thinking?
Eventually. I mean,
okay.
Definitely.
It's hard.
Help. I mean, eventually. I don't know. I've gone through it for as long as I can remember, so it's hard to erase that mindset of where I'll never be fearful.
Sure. And so many people have said that over the years. And when we talk to them literally after the flight, when we take classes, flying, stuff like that, people are truly amazed that they have that level of relaxation to that, But the reason I ask that is because so many people like you can't even imagine when they having that much comfort and not thinking about a flight at all to that level there. So, I want to thank you for coming on here. You got stuck because I saw you making a comment, and I go after people that do that. and I thought and what we've done here is this is what I do with people during a 15-minute coaching session. And then I follow up, I record the session and follow up with some ideas, you know, that can be customized to where they're at in their particular plight there. So anyway, and you know, you can always get a hold of us, you know, where we live and stuff like that. And we hope that we can support you in the future. So,
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So thanks for coming. You can stay with us here if you want for the next couple of minutes. We're gonna go through get down to some questions here that I wanted to share. And here we go. Let me share the screen again. Share. Okay, Eric, Diane, let's talk about some of the questions that we had that people submitted here. Diane found this, we thought was kind of cute. Smooth ride. This is, whose perspective is this? Is this a typical passenger's perspective, Diane?
Oh, no, that's the flight attendant's perspective.
Oh, the flight attendants. Got it.
Oh, no, that's us.
Oh, got it.
Just
Right.
so all the passengers know, I mean, it gets to us, but it affects us too. I mean, we're sitting there kind of bouncing around sometimes. So that's kind of our take on it in a very humorous way, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, Eric. So one of the questions that back to Scott Robertson submitted was, one of the things, and this goes along with what terrifies or at least bothers Megan as well, is when we have light turbulence, Scott's afraid that there's going to be unforeseen severe turbulence and an instant drop in altitude. The first thing I would say is that's just a classic example of anticipatory anxiety. And you know, if you're sitting there on edge before you even get to the turbulence, then when you get to turbulence, it's not a very long slide to be sitting there now when you're in it, worrying about, will it ever stop? You know, or if it stops, am I going to have another, you know, one of those death grips on the seat when the bottom drops out from under me there and all that. So what I thought was, you know, the problem is anticipatory anxiety, but I thought we'd give a little facts behind that, Eric. So how do we know if it's likely that we might have some chop or some clear air turbulence or something like that?
Without going into a 2-hour discourse, we have forecasts. We have continuously updated advisories from our dispatch or our flight operations department. We have reports from air traffic control. We have reports from other airplanes. And we can see with the radar or otherwise frontal areas where we would expect the ride might be less than good. So we have multiple ways to know that we may hit some bumps while we're flying along.
Okay. Can you still see the slide there?
I can see the cartoon superposed on the slide. Yeah.
The slide. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, the picture disappeared again. Oh, this is enough to make me want to commit Harry. I swear. I got 3 monitors and I can't find the doggone presentation on any of them.
Oh, Trey.
It's just amazes me.
While he's looking, Tracy, I'll give you my phone number later and you can call me, and it would be a terrible hobby, but I'll give you a 2-hour discourse on turbulence. And hopefully that won't cause you to hang yourself in the bathroom. But if you think that'll help, I'll talk to you about it on the phone for 2 hours. All right.
Okay. All right. Now, I think we're back in the sharing mode right now. And I found a little key here. So are you seeing the slides again?
Yes, we're finally cratering without the Austrian.
Tracy, I'm monitoring Facebook, and Tracy says that she would love a 2-hour discourse. Thanks, Yippee. Thanks, Eric.
All right. All right. So back on the slide about how I didn't even hear what you said, Eric. I was so distracted there. But talking about you know, how can we as pilots anticipate turbulence?
So do the quick and the dirty again. So before we take off, we have a flight plan issued by our dispatch or our flight operations control department, and they'll have big predictors all along the route of what they anticipate our ride or the level of turbulence will be. They will have selected the route to minimize that, and they will have given us options to get around that. Once we're en route, we have our radar, we have reports from other airplanes, and we have reports from air traffic control and our own experience level to allow us to judge what it is, the level that turbulence will impact the flight, so that we can continuously update our decision-making process as we're moving. We have multiple sources helping us with that.
Okay, so let's save Tracy's question for last year, and we'll talk about this one here. This is kind of related. How do we know what other planes are in the sky in our vicinity? All right.
We have air traffic control reporting their position, and we also have a device in the airplane now. All the airplanes do, that transmits to the other airplane called a TCAS, traffic collision avoidance system. Is that the acronym?
It is.
So and we have a scope on it, and the pilots, because we dumb down everything, call it a fish finder, because it shows little radar return echoes like a fish detector in Minnesota or Wisconsin. And it gives you advice about where the other airplanes are relative to your position, how high, how low they are, that sort of thing, and what you'll clear them by. And if for some reason you should have a risk of the airplanes approaching each other in a minimal sort of clearance state, the device will start commanding both airplanes to deviate in order to give safe vertical clearance from one to the other. It will tell one to climb, one to descend, that sort of thing, so that it will give you absolute separation commands should separation degrade to where that becomes an issue.
And another part of flying is that we have a special clearance called an instrument flight rules clearance, right? And so we can't even take off unless we are in the system, and they have already protected the airspace around us all the way from takeoff, and they've planned for us all along the route to our destination there. And typically it's still 5 miles in at the high altitudes, right? And 3 miles in the vicinity of the towers.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Right. So that's another way. So continuing that, we had a person who asked a question: how do we see in the clouds? So talk about this.
Answer. You should give your honest 2-word answer of
yeah, we can't. We're just as blind as you are. So yeah. However, if there's anything to see that we are worried about, if it's not a benign, nice little cloud like in the children's storybooks, if it's thunderstorm, that sort of thing, we have at least dual radars in the airplane, and we can look at the radar and have images of the clouds in front of us, such that if they are hazardous. Let me hold off on that 1 second and just talk about the attitude indicator. Okay, so tell me what this thing is in here. And this is a really primitive one. I got a simple one.
That's a old tech deal, and our new ones are driven by, ignore that thing that says vacuum. That's not your wife reminding you what to do at the house, and I'll get in trouble for saying that, but that's not. They're powered by inertial reference systems. They used to be powered by vacuum pumps, and that is what's showing on that gauge there. But the deal in the middle is the symbol of the airplane, and the top is, as Ron was talking about, is a sky pointer, and the sky is blue and the earth is brown, and this thing shows the airplane tipped in a 15-degree left turn, and for some reason it looks like 10 degrees pitch up. They're climbing, but that shows you the position of the airplane relative to the earth. We don't see anything with it, but it tells us what the orientation of the airplane is.
Right. So at first glance, someone who's not familiar with it, with an artificial horizon indicator like this is, might think that this is pointing directly up and away from the center of the Earth. Actually, the white pointer represents the vertical plane on the Earth. And as Eric said, we're in a slight left turn. So you can imagine this little thing with the little wings there, that's an airplane. And you can see in relation to the horizon, it's in a left turn. So that's one of the most basic things that we learn as a pilot, how to stay oriented as to what is up, what is down, where is the sky, and where is the ground. Oh, almost poetic. So, all right. Now, the next slide is the one that you want to talk about there a little bit, Eric, about how we can see when we're out of the clouds, or if we should go into the clouds or whatever.
So this is a nice picture because, as one of my first officers said quite humorously one time, while we were busily working our way around weather, he pointed up at the windows and at the windshield, and he goes, "These work, you know." We were looking at the radar returns, but the windows do work. And this is the right one's a picture out the window of a thunderstorm, developing cloud that we would want to deviate around. We just happen to be able to see that because it's daytime. But if we were in a cloud or it's nighttime and we couldn't see it, the depiction on the radar screen would be like the slide on the left, showing reflective returns from the clouds, guiding us to showing us which way we want to go to deviate that. And in a super simple review of the radar is the radar detects raindrops. And the bigger the raindrop, the bigger the reflection, or the greater the return the gives. And they're color-coded green, yellow, red. If the rainfall is more intense or the raindrops are more massive, the theory is the updrafts must be stronger to be able to suspend that amount of water in the air, and the turbulence there will be greater. So we don't want to be in areas of what we call severe gradient, or where that yellow would go in the red. And we use the radar to steer our way around it. And that is, in fact, how we see.
So on a day like this, Eric, what kind of ride might they be experiencing right now? Would it necessarily be bumpy?
No, it might be really smooth. And as my first officer buddy said, looking out the window, where the haze layer looks real even there, going just above the base of the clouds, it quite possibly, that might be the top of the lifting. Yeah, exactly. Lifting condensation level. It may be almost glass smooth there, as long as we avoid that cell.
And if we skirt, you can see on the screen here, this green part, that's a pretty good indication of what this might paint like. Sure. And as you see behind it slightly might be this more intense area. But if we were to dancing with the clouds, if we were to just kind of skim through that, we might get a good bounce or so if we get close enough to that cloud. But basically, when you can see, like Ira said, when you can see out the window there, and you can see it requires a very little deviation to go around that. And so it doesn't cost us much fuel at all. And so we will ask for a diversion and be able to divert around that a little bit, just to give you a better ride and to give us a better ride for that matter. So I hope that answers people's questions to some degree, how we see when you can look out the window, or we can look out the window and we can't see anything. So,
and Ron used an industry term. He whacked me last week when I got overexcited about explaining one of our check airman friends was rated on an airplane. I got into my high-speed mumble mode. He said paint, but that is how the pilots refer to the radar picture. The air traffic controllers and the pilots will say, "What are you painting?" Or and referring to the radar return. What is the reflectivity from the target? What is the image you're painting? And that's what we say.
All right. And let's move on here. Here's the question that I took off of Facebook that Tracy Solis submitted here. And she said she'd love to get an education on what I read account for 75% of airport delays. So we're talking, the subject is delays. And she wants to know how these things affect our operation there and why they cause delays. So low ceiling, what does that mean, Eric?
That's the clearance level above the ground of the clouds, And I think, as I mentioned earlier, what you're looking for there, Tracy, is things that would require the airplane, the things that require the airport to have inbound aircraft shooting instrument approaches, making instrument arrivals, whether it's a restriction to visibility, it's a low ceiling, that sort of thing. Then what happens is the controlling air traffic control facility has to increase the separation between airplanes departing and arriving, and that slows the pace over something they might normally budget for their normal pace of operation, and that slows things down.
So let me add this, sir. So if it doesn't really matter, we can fly in all conditions, but the number of airplanes that we can land and take off in a given amount of time increases, the better the visibility is. Let's just say that. So if I can look out and I can see an airplane that's 3 miles in front of me, which is the typical spacing that we want either on departure or when I'm landing, if the tower will ask me, you see that traffic up ahead? And if I say, Roger, he says, follow him to the airport. If we are in the clouds at that portion, and we're going to be in the clouds in the descent, once we start down a glide path to the runway, now the controller has to maintain separation for us. And he's going to make sure that we don't get too close, and we're not going to, and he might have to put us all in trail, and we might not be able to use 2 runways to an airport if they're too close together physically. So that limits us. So clouds make us slow down, and not slow down speed wise, but slow down the amount of traffic in there. So if you're sitting on the ground and a rain shower comes up and there's some clouds associated with it, and you look up in the sky and you realize it's cloudy, and you look at airplanes departing off of the airport surface and you see them disappearing into the clouds, you can anticipate that if you were out there getting ready to take off, you might have a delay out there. Or if you were going to LA and LA experienced those kinds of conditions, you might have a delay here on the ground because they might have to slow the number of arrivals into the LA area there. So anyway, so that's about clouds and surface visibility. Winds, how do those affect us, Eric? How might those affect the operation?
The winds are going to determine, if they're strong, what runway or runways we can use to depart and arrive. But generally, I think in terms of the traffic flying into the area and out of the area, it's a non-issue. It's just an issue as to if you got restricted on runways available for use because of either the wind speed or the direction.
Yeah, the winds don't affect us as long as the visibility is still good, because that's another one of those things that you learn early on as a pilot, is how to avoid or how to land and operate in the winds. So, okay, so much for that. So that's all the questions we have for tonight, and we'll come back next week, and Ron's going to do some more practicing, and there's a chance that our technician is going to be back, our chief technical officer, and we'll be doing some new and better things. Trace or Megan, I want to thank you again for coming on and being brave and exposing your anxiety to the rest of the world there. And thanks again to Eric and Diane. Any closing words, Diane? Are you're on call? Did you skate through tonight?
I'm on reserve, and I'm looking at my clock, and I have 55 more minutes. Now, tomorrow's my day off, so there's really nowhere they can send me that they can get me back. So I'm pretty sure I'm okay. Yeah.
We'll light a candle anyway.
Thank you.
So anyway, all right. So thanks everybody. Another episode of Fearless Flight Live, and we'll see you next week.
Don't cut it off yet, Tracy. I want you to contact Captain Ron, and he will give you my cell phone number. I'm not quite tired enough to rip it live on the show because of various federal agencies that might be in pursuit of me, collections agencies, bail bonds, and that kind of thing. But if you contact Captain Ron, he will give you my cell phone number, and we can talk turbulence until one or the other of us falls over from starvation or boredom.
You know where we live, so to speak, Tracy. So we'll see you. Okay, everybody, have a great week. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for